زهرة هي شايفة معها ورد ومسكتها.
What is happening in Israel Palestine? Unprecedented attacks by Hamas in Israel and Israeli counterattacks in Gaza have created a state of war. Many questions have arisen. The Palestinian Liberation Armed Group Hamas launched an unprecedented attack on Israel in decades last Saturday. Many Israelis were killed in this attack by Hamas fighters who entered the border. Many have been taken hostage by the fighters. A war situation has arisen between Israel and Palestine based on this incident. At least 1,100 people died. Why did such a situation arise? Why is Hamas-Israel fighting? Israel's intelligence failure is the reason for such a large attack. Various questions have arisen. BBC tried to find answers to these questions. What is Hamas? Hamas is an Islamic resistance movement in Palestine. The group is in power in Gaza. Hamas has vowed to destroy Israel. The group has fought several wars with Israel since taking power in Gaza in 2007. As Hamas itself has fired rockets at Israel in those wars, it has also allowed other groups to fire thousands of rockets at Israel. Many deadly attacks have been carried out. In response, Israel has also carried out repeated airstrikes on Hamas. Along with Egypt, the Gaza Strip has been blockaded since 2007. Because Israel has given the excuse of protecting the security of Gaza. Israel, the United States, the European Union, the United Kingdom and other powerful countries have designated Hamas as a whole, or in some cases the armed wing of this group, as a terrorist group. Iran is supporting Hamas. The country finances Hamas and provides them with weapons and training. What is the Gaza Strip? The Gaza Strip is a 41 kilometers long and 10 kilometers wide area between Israel, Egypt and the Mediterranean Sea. About 2.3 million people live there. This valley is one of the most densely populated areas in the world. Gaza's airspace and coastline are under Israeli control. Israel is also strict on what goods enter or leave Gaza through the border. Egypt similarly controls the movement of people along its Gaza border. According to United Nations estimates, about 80% of Gaza's population depends on international aid, and about 1 million people depend on daily food aid. What is Palestine? The West Bank and Gaza together are known as the Palestinian Territory. East Jerusalem and Israel have all been part of the territory known as Palestine since Roman times. This land is sacred to Muslims, Jews and Christians as well and is considered as the original homeland. 1948 Israel was declared as a state. However, this land is still considered Palestine by those people who do not recognize Israel's right to exist. And Palestinians use the name Palestine to refer to the West Bank, Gaza and East Jerusalem in one word. Why is Hamas-Israel fighting? The day of the declaration of the State of Israel was the Nakba, or Day of Catastrophe for the Palestinians. Millions of Palestinians were driven from their homes in Israel that day. It starts from there. Since then, there has been constant tension between Israel and Hamas for various reasons. But the attack of Hamas in Israel last Saturday was a surprise. No one had any inkling of the attack in advance. Palestinian fighters launched thousands of rocket attacks into Israel and used land, sea and air to infiltrate southern Israel in a well-planned manner. They besieged Israeli towns and military posts for several hours. Several Israelis were killed in the operation. At least 100 Israeli citizens were taken hostage in Gaza by Palestinian gunmen. Israel then began airstrikes on Gaza. At that time, they said that attacks were being carried out on Hamas fighters in different places. This counterattack by Hamas and Israel has created a war situation. How unprecedented was the attack by Hamas? The BBC's International Affairs editor, Jeremy Bowen, wrote that the attack was the most well-planned and successful operation carried out by Hamas from Gaza. It was the deadliest attack by Hamas fighters across the border. Israel has not come under such an attack in more than a generation. Hamas fighters broke through the wire fence that separates Israel from Gaza in many places. 50 years ago, the Fourth Arab-Israeli War started with a surprise attack on Israel by Egypt and Syria. This unprecedented attack happened on the anniversary of that war. The significance of that day will not be lost on Hamas leaders. Israel's intelligence failure? The BBC's security correspondent Frank Gardner answered yes. According to him, Israel's security agency, the Shin Bet, intelligence agency Mossad, its external spy agency and even the Israel Defense Forces all failed to detect the threat of an attack or failed to act even if they received warnings. He commented that the matter is surprising. Israel's intelligence operations in the Middle East are extensive. Various guerrilla groups in Palestine as well as Israeli intelligence agencies have spies and informants in Lebanon, Syria and elsewhere. On the ground, cameras, ground motion sensors and regular military patrols are installed along the perimeter of the tense border between Gaza and Israel. A fence topped with barbed wire is considered effective enough to prevent human intrusion, especially in the case of the kind of infiltration that occurred in the attack on Israel last Saturday. But Hamas fighters have easily crossed this fence. They cut through the cable or entered Israel by sea and parachute. What are Israel's priorities now? Re-establishing security in southern Israel. This means eliminating the remaining Hamas gunmen in the area and repairing the border fence between Israel and Gaza. Ending Hamas' ability to attack Israel. Israel has never been able to do this. Israel knows that the places it destroyed in airstrikes this weekend can easily be rebuilt. Another alternative is to mount a ground attack. Israeli troops can launch ground operations with tanks. But it will undoubtedly cause a lot of casualties on both sides. And there is no possibility that Hamas will be exhausted in this campaign. Preventing the escalation of the conflict that has started. Israel must prevent the escalation of the conflict, especially in the West Bank and Lebanon. Because if others respond to Hamas's call, Israel will be in trouble and they will have to fight on three sides. Rescuing Israeli hostages. To rescue Israelis held hostage by Hamas, Israeli special forces must plan a detailed rescue operation. But there are great risks in such an operation, and trying to free the hostages through negotiations can take months and even years. What's next? The commander of the Hamas armed group, Mohammed Deif, called on Palestinians and other Arabs to join Hamas' campaign to end the Israeli occupation. The big question now is whether Palestinians in the occupied West Bank, East Jerusalem or elsewhere in the region will heed the call. Israel undoubtedly sees a war looming on many fronts. The worst that could happen is that the powerful Lebanese guerrilla group Hezbollah could get involved in the war. On Sunday morning, Hezbollah fired several missiles and shells into southern Israel. However, there were no casualties. Israel's army has ordered massive mobilization. In addition, Israel's repeated airstrikes in Gaza indicate that it is planning to launch a ground operation there.